who's given me a question I can't answer. Observing stillness. But not just observing stillness, allowing the stillness to actually sink in and be that stillness. The trouble is with a WC, you mean a toilet, that can't stay still. People keep disturbing it. Ajahn, why is it that I have things I want to do? I try to do and start to do them. I'm overcome with malaise and lethargy, feeling like I don't want to do them. But whenever I have done them, I am almost filled with joy and fulfillment. They're enjoyable activities, but for some reason, my brain never learns. For example, desire to read arises. I grab a book, desire to not read arises, and I win-lose battle. This applies to almost all things, meditation, working, exercising, etc. Maybe I'm being unkind in relating to the mind, but without the will, that annoying friend who keeps telling me what to do, how will I know what to do or have the motivation to do anything at all? How can I overcome this problem? That's pretty easy. Don't consider these things to be doing something, especially meditation, not doing meditation. This is when we let go of the doer and we relax to the max. What is relaxing to the max? It's relaxing what you do. If you try to relax, you get stressed out, relaxing. It's not relaxing at all. Imagine that I had some sort of meter and I can put it on your wrist and I can find out how relaxed you are. And if I put some device on your wrist to test how relaxed you are, of course that would make you more tense because somebody's watching you trying to be relaxed. And you can't try to be relaxed, otherwise you're not relaxing, you're trying. So then you say, let go of trying. So you try to let go of trying, and that's more trying. So after a while it gets a great skill, learning how to relax. It's not easy. It takes a lot of training to learn how to relax. Many people think they're relaxed, but are you relaxed? So you've got to train in relaxation. So when you go home, you can tell your friends in relation, what did you learn? I learned how to relax. And honestly, those people who can relax, they're good meditators, they find a huge amount of benefits in their life. Number one, people who know how to meditate, to relax, they don't have to pay so much health insurance. It's so well known that people who are relaxed don't get so many diseases. People who are relaxed, they're great when you go to work. Because when you go to work, depends on what type of job you have. But if you're relaxed, say you're a bed tester employed by these firms who make and sell beds for you to sleep on, you can test them out. I'm making this up as I go along. But it does mean that people who meditate, actually if you can say that and you really are a good meditator, number one, you don't get angry. Because you don't get angry, it's easy to work with other people, and you're innovative, which means you have some really great ideas, how to work better, and you find you don't take so much sick leave. Because you don't take so much sick leave, again, you're much easier to employ. So that's one of the reasons why, that when you learn how to relax to the max, you're a much better employee. It's just a real story that years ago when I was traveling in Thailand, not just walking through the forests, but it's like flying in the air through the forests, not through the forest, over the forests. That's when I picked up one of the newspapers on offer there, the Bangkok Post. and I had an article in the Bangkok Post about the Oriental Hotel in Bangkok. The Oriental Hotel was one of the best hotels in the world. It's on the river, and all these film stars like to stay there. And not me, I haven't stayed there. I was just invited to give a talk there. But in the article, that year they had won the prize for the best hotel in the world. I mean, that was amazing, to get the best hotel in the world prize. So they interviewed the owner. How come your hotel has won the best in the world award? And the manager said, well, one of the things is for 1 week every year, in roster, not all at the same time, I send every one of the staff, no matter what religion they are, to go on a retreat, a meditation retreat. And that actually drew my interest. What's going on here? And even the interviewer said, are you just some person who's trying to make all your staff Buddhist? He said, no, it's not just trying to promote Buddhism. What I do this for is because you find at the company's expense, at the hotel's expense, when I send everybody for 1 week to this monastery to go on a retreat, I know that whatever days they're not at the hotel working, they have less need for sick leave. So actually that they work more days at the hospital when I send them for a free retreat. And not only that, but they learn how to deal with anger. They learn things like now is the only time you have, and the customer right in front of you, no matter how demanding they are, is the most important person in the world. And what they learn how to do is to be kind. So these are the skills which you learn in a monastery. They enjoy being there. It means they get on much better with their family, their health improves, and they're not so worried about what their kids are up to at school. They're just basically, it's a win-win situation for everybody. And that's what he said. And that's what he said, why? That he sends all his staff every year, in rotation, to a retreat, no matter what religion they are, or no religion, and it's good for the hotel, good for the bottom line. And so, because of that, when you get home, you should ask your boss at work, say, this actually is good for you. So please, next year, please, this is the times for the retreat next year. Please, you should send me with the air tickets as well, for free, and pay all the fees, because it's good for the company, whoever you work for. Do you think that might work? Best of luck. No, but it's the truth to that. It does make you healthier, happier, increase productivity. Dear Ajahn, do you agree about a statement, life is suffering? Why? Thank you, Ajahn. Yeah, you can say that, but suffering is just a small thing. It's just saying life is suffering. How much suffering? There's big suffering, there's huge suffering, there's immense suffering, and there's hardly any suffering. And of the suffering, there's the two types of suffering. And the two types of suffering, as I mentioned already, is the physical suffering and the emotional suffering. So instead of saying that life is suffering, we can say that life can be suffering, is affected by suffering, and there's a way to lessen it. Would you not like the possibility of like an escape from suffering? The life can sometimes be very suffering. Can there be an escape from it? So this is what you're doing, finding that escape. In one of the stories which I wrote, I don't think you've received it over in Hong Kong or Indonesia. It was a story of this criminal in jail. His name was Zach. And Zach, was really getting depressed being in jail. And then having many hours to spend confined in his cell, then he actually just noticed that one of the stones in the floor was loose. So he actually, with a bit of skill, even though it's only a plastic knife, he managed to lift the stone up and found underneath it there was a tunnel, an escape tunnel. And the inscription on the underside of the stone said this tunnel was built by a former inmate called Mr. Zach Yamuni. Who's that? And he said, if you can get through this tunnel by following the 8 instructions, then you will get to freedom. And the 8 instructions to escape from the jail, what were they? First of all, have right view. And he said, study and learn about the nature of tunnels and prisons and freedom. And if you can learn about that, then you can actually enter the tunnel, and the next thing to do is, why are you going through this tunnel? Because sometimes people try to escape and they get to even a worse place. So what's your motivation? As long as it's for renunciation, kindness and gentleness, then you might escape. But then once you have your right intention, the instructions said, then you also have to have right speech, right action, right livelihood. If you do anything wrong, sometimes the tunnel collapses. Sometimes the guards hear you and they drag you out. And then once you can go down that tunnel nice and quietly, you have to have that right effort. You try too hard and try to get somewhere, you always get lost. If you try too hard, again you hit things and the tunnel collapses. You have to know the best way of right effort is actually right renunciation and stillness. And then you have to be very mindful, because when you go deep into that tunnel, it's very dark. You can't see your way, you have to feel your way through. It's so easy to get lost. And lastly, when you come to the end of the tunnel, you have to be very still. If you're not still and don't know how to relax to the max, you'll never escape from that tunnel. But if you do follow the instructions, follow the instructions of the tunnel built by Zakya Muni, you too can escape into freedom. So yeah, there is suffering, but suffering is what makes you sort of do something about it. If you just say life is suffering, then that means that most people will just give up. And they say life isn't suffering. So these days, you can get a laptop and you can do any video or AI, artificial intelligence. You can make, everything which you read just to suit you. Can you? Anyway, this is not just to admit the suffering in life, but know there is an end of suffering. That's one of the reasons why, when I first came to Perth and started teaching, I started teaching the Four Noble Truths, just as that first caption said, life is suffering. And there's Four Noble Truths, that's just the first. And so when I said that, life is suffering, 3/4 of the audience left. And the only ones who remained were those who were deaf. So I decided can't change the message, just change the marketing. And change the marketing to, first of all, that bliss exists, freedom exists. So I did the third Noble Truth first. And then, what's the cause of bliss? Eightfold Path, renunciation, meditation. And then, that sometimes there's no bliss at all. Life is really suffering. And when you lose a loved one, or you get injured, or when the worst of all suffering is when the retreat finishes. And what's the cause of just that suffering? Wanting, craving. That's the cause of suffering. So when I changed the order around, it's much easier to teach. And people were saying, yeah, that there is such a thing as happiness and bliss. That's reassuring. Now, how can that be caused? And when they hear that, then they get sort of motivated to meditate, to keep the precepts. Even little things like I mentioned about, like keeping precepts, being good, being kind. My goodness, that just creates a lot of free happiness. You don't need to buy it. You don't need to train for it in a precept gym. We should have an academy, which is precept academy, where we just teach people how to keep the 5 precepts. A lot of people lose their memory, and so that's why sometimes I don't teach them the 5 precepts, I teach them the 2 precepts. Those are the precepts which I keep. I'm a 2 preceptor. What are those 2 precepts? Never doing anything which hurts or harms another living being. Number 2, never doing anything intentionally which hurts or harms oneself. Those become the 2 precepts. And a lot of times people feel, 5 precepts is so complicated. For example, you can't take drugs. What about if those drugs are actually prescribed to you by a doctor? Is that wrong? And so I can't take any drugs, so if I don't take those drugs, I'll die. So what should you do? So all those things makes it very complicated. But if you just keep it very simple, don't do anything which harms another being. And don't do anything which harms yourself. It's pretty easy to understand then. Make sense? Yes. You're so obedient. Amazing. Next question. In Mahayana and Zen practice, some Gata taught us to confess every day. Do we need to do confession every day? I feel it's too much, thank you. Well, there's one way out of having to confess every day, and don't do anything wrong. Then you don't have to confess anything. And the main thing is that if one makes a mistake, then just make sure that you understand it, you don't try and hide it, and then just let the person who's affected know. A lot of times the mistakes don't hurt anybody, they mostly hurt you. But try and be someone who makes less mistakes every day. And if you make less mistakes, you become much more free. That's the other wonderful thing about keeping precepts, making hardly any mistakes, is that you feel unafraid. Always, if a couple of policemen came to your apartment or house in Singapore or Indonesia, would you feel afraid? Why? There must be some doubt. So, has he seen this? Does he know this? I remember in Changi Airport once, I was just not even checked in yet, and they had these, you can't call them policemen, you can't call them soldiers. It was like members of a SWAT team, with machine guns and dressed all in black. And they were patrolling the airport in case there was any threats of terrorism against the airport or the passengers like me in that airport at the time. And just the look of them, all dressed in black, was really scary. They had these big guns, all loaded. That was really frightening. And you know what happened once? One of these, what do you call them? SWAT team or something. Yeah, but anyway, one of them came right up to me. And you can see that when they came up to me, everybody else was walking towards me or walked away. And I thought, what is this guy in his brown robes? Is he one of the terrorists about to sort of do an attack on Changi Airport? And so he came up to me, and I didn't recognize him at first because he's all in, what was that, camouflage? He said, "Oh, Ajahn Brahm, how are you?" And he put his hands up. And he said, "I never came to your talk, I'm very sorry, but I was busy, as you can see. But anyway, anything I can do to help you?" He was a disciple. And he just went to come up and say hello. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing, as protecting the airport. He just wanted to say hello. He just happened to be in the airport, he saw me. I don't know how he recognized me. But I recognized him straight away. I didn't recognize him until he started speaking. So we had a nice little chat about the Dhamma. I said, "You better go back to work. Otherwise, the airport might blow up or someone might blow you up." So we went back to work again. And I kind of love it when you have these surprise meetings like that. But other people were more afraid than I was. I also, on a similar, I like going to airports, even though they're very dangerous in airports. Because I like going to airports so much, people say, "Be careful, Ajahn Brahm, because if you go to too many airports, you get terminal disease." You might get that this afternoon. But anyway, that one time when I came back, it's from Sri Lanka. I came back from Sri Lanka. It's a long flight. I had to change plane somewhere, but came back really late at night, and I was exhausted. And in those days, it was just not electronic check-ins. You had to queue in line, and they were really slow, these customs officers. And as I was queuing in line, that's when they took the sniffer dogs up and down the lines, sniffing for drugs. You know what happened? He stopped at me. Came up and down the lines, up and down. When he came to me, stopped. And he buried his muzzle in my robe. And the guide, the owner, the customs officer, had to pull it away. And I didn't mind. I didn't have anything, of course. But the people behind me and the people in front of me, they took a step away. We're not with him. And then, as I got closer to the customs officer, they took the dog up and down again. And he stopped at me a second time. And had to pull him away. Then they went even further away from me. Then when he got to the counter, that's where the guy didn't mess around. He said, "Where are the drugs?" I said, "Well, I don't have any drugs. I'm a monk." "Oh, yeah." And so when I got through that check, then when you went in to collect the baggage, which I didn't have, then the guys pulled me aside again and said, "Where are those drugs?" I said, "I don't have any drugs." I said, "Let's look at your baggage." And that was one of the wonderful times when just having the baggage which I have when I go anywhere, just one little bag, they could look inside that very easily. "What about on your body?" And so I just pulled my robe, "Have a look yourself." And they realized that I didn't have anything. So then they said, "Why did that dog stop twice? Sniff you and wag its tail?" And I said, "Explain, because I have lots of metta for dogs, lots of loving kindness. The dog liked me." And then he said, "Get out of here." And I wasn't at all scared because I was exhausted and tired. When you're tired, it just doesn't matter. And, what you want to do to me, it's up to you. But it's amazing that sometimes those animals do. Just they respond to loving kindness. So there's times in your life, if you're at the airport and the sniffer dogs are coming, maybe it's not the right time to give lots of loving kindness to them. You'll end up like me. It all worked out okay. I heard some teaching about detachment of like or dislike. I feel suppressed with the teaching. I prefer following the heart and feeling the body as you taught. Is it correct? Yeah. If you follow the heart and you're smart following the heart, then you do get detached. The heart teaches you, just why do you want so many things? This evening at the airport, how much luggage are you going to be carrying through there? And how heavy is it? Once, I was looking at myself just kind of almost skipping or dancing through the airport with just a light bag. And saw all these others with these big loads they were trying to carry onto the plane. And that's where I started the simile, I love similes, of the person who'd just been where? Shopping. You going shopping tonight? Yes. At least you're honest, thank you. And when you go shopping, I don't know why you go shopping in Perth, honestly, because you have the same shops in Hong Kong and the same shops in Jakarta. Cheaper, not when you have to sort of pay all the extras. It looks like it's cheaper, but then in the end it's just probably just about the same. But anyway, I remember just this woman carrying these 2 heavy bags of shopping. When you go to a shop, they actually put the name of the supplier on the bag. And this lady, the first bag, can see the name of the shop. And what did it say on the bag? P-A-S-T, the past. And on the other bag in her right hand was F-U-T-U-R-E, the future. And she had so much stuff in those 2 bags, the past bag and the future bag. And it was so heavy, so heavy. And the poor lady was getting so exhausted. Her arms were aching, her shoulders were hurting because they were so heavy. Packed with all the things she couldn't give up in the future, all the things she couldn't let go of in the past. And then someone came up and told her, just relax to the max. Lower the bag in your left hand. And when it meets the ground, all the weight, the burden disappears. And it means you're free to uncurl your fingers from the handle of the bags, lift it up, and again relax to the max. Rest. You need some rest. And then you don't need to throw the bags away. Just notice what it's like when you're not carrying them anymore. And the same with the right hand bag, the future. Lower that to the ground. When it reaches the ground, you can let it go. When it's supported by the earth, you don't need to hold it. You move your hand away so the arm can relax. I don't know how I know that story when I don't have any bags. But maybe because I know it, that's why I practice it. And so then you don't have any shopping at all. And you imagine yourself, those 2 heavy bags on either side of you, one by your left foot, one by your right foot. Then which one do you respect most? The one on your right? That's the future. Why? The future is totally uncertain. You never know what's going to happen. So anyway, when you're very light, put those 2 bags down, you can rest. And you can imagine yourself not carrying any weight from the past or the future. And you're in this beautiful place between the 2, the past and the future, this present moment, just now. And why is it a pleasant present? Because you're carrying no burdens. You've renounced. But then you can see those two bags, no one will take them. So you can just watch them rest, and that's how you can do the meditation at the airport. The two bags on either side of you, but you're not carrying them. I kind of like that simile. So you don't feel suppressed by the teaching. You don't have to do it. If you have to do it and try to do it, it's even more of a burden. So instead you feel what it's like to be detached. It's not suppressing you, it's freeing you. You don't have to worry about a thing. And that's how you follow the heart. But you follow the heart before it has a heart attack. That makes sense? Okay, now what have we got now? Yeah, doing quite well. Only a few. Did Ajahn answer any questions last night? Wow, many. Excellent. Apparently, when I'm doing the walking meditation, focus on by left, right, like that. By doing this, I only feel my feet moving, and my breath will be doing it by itself. Is it correct? Yes. You're doing walking meditation, not breath meditation. Each one of these are vehicles, and you use the vehicle in the appropriate place. For example, you came from Hong Kong and Jakarta in an aircraft, correct? Yes. Why didn't you land the aircraft in Jhana Grove Retreat Center? Because it doesn't fit in here, and it's also noisy. Actually, you could get a few parachutes and just ask it to go over here and just jump out. Would that work? It would if you didn't have so much luggage. That's the other advice. But anyhow, so the aircraft is used to get you to the airport. And from the airport, you do a bit of walking with your shoes, in your shoes. I was told a long time ago, there's this Indian kind of guru, and he tried to walk barefoot through the airport, actually even on an aircraft. And they said it's illegal in an aircraft. You try it when you go back to Hong Kong. And take out off your shoes and put them in your bag, see what they say. It's supposed to be illegal, you have to have shoes in the airports. That's what I was told anyway. It's not illegal here. You see me, I don't wear shoes here. I don't get into any trouble yet. But anyhow, so we go in the aircraft as far as we can go, then we get into a car or a bus as far as we can go, and that's just the car park. Then you get off the bus in the car park here, you put your shoes on, and you walk to your cottage where you can actually take your shoes off, and then you can rest. Different vehicles for different stages of the journey. The aircraft, the cars, the wheels, and then the shoes, and then barefoot. That's actually why different vehicles for different times. And this is why different meditation objects for different times. So you might start in the breath meditation when you sit down on the seat. But the breath meditation doesn't last, never will. There comes a time when you get up from the seat, because then you have to do another meditation. Or when you go to do walking meditation, and mindful of the feet. If you get very peaceful during walking meditation, then you can sit down. There are times when you can do loving kindness meditation. When you do loving kindness meditation, you're not doing breath meditation. You're not sort of thinking of the feelings in the feet. And if you get into nimittas, you can't feel the feet moving or the breath. You go into these beautiful nimitta meditations. Different vehicles for different stages of the process. So that's the same, that's the answer to the question. If you are walking, please don't watch nimittas. Otherwise, you will bump into the walls. You won't be aware of the body. Or like I tell many people, each one of you, you have your own vehicle to go. I know you have is it a bus you're using to get to the airport? Or to the shops? They have shops in airports now. And it's really mean. They know they have to go to the airport. They don't have to go to a shopping centre, so they move the shopping centre into the airport. But the problem is, even I have to go past the shops. They've got no sort of way through for monks. You have to, and when you go through those shops or the shopping centres within the airport, sometimes they ask you, "Would you like to buy some whiskey, sir?" That's really unfair. They say, "No, it's cheap." No. You know that's one of the reasons why a whiskey you can buy and take on the aircraft, but you know the one liquid you can't take on the aircraft? Water. No, you can take water, or you can fill up a bottle. Well, what liquid can you not bring onto the airport? I remember reading through the regulations once. The one liquid which is banned to carry on the aircraft is holy water. Honestly. And why? It's a good question. But my interpretation of that, why, or maybe a suggestion, there was a story in Perth about this guy who went through the Green Channel, nothing to declare. And so they always open up one or two bags just as a check on random. And so they asked this gentleman to open up his suitcase. "Anything to declare, sir?" He said, No, nothing's there. And so they opened up his suitcase, and underneath a suit and a jumper, they saw these 2 bottles of whiskey. And he said, "You said you had nothing to declare, sir." "Yes." "What's this?" And he told them, he thought very quickly. He said, "I'm a Catholic. I've just been over to France on a pilgrimage to the holy city of Lourdes. This is holy water, which I got from Lourdes." And the custom official said, "Well, why on the label on those bottles does it say Johnny Walker?" "Well, it's just spare bottles. I had to put the water in something. For the holy water, I just put in these 2 bottles, empty. It's okay, it's just holy water." And of course the customs officer was not convinced. He said, "I've got to smell it." So the customs officer opened the tops, smelled it, and said, "Smell it for yourself. This is not water, this is whiskey." And the traveller sort of appeared to be surprised, and he smelt them and said, "My goodness, you're right, it is whiskey. It's another miracle." And from that time they don't allow holy water to be brought into Australia. They might think it's a miracle. Okay, what am I doing? Okay, so this is the last question. Some countries have empire history, causes many control freak in culture, e.g. parents, boss, elder people. How can we survive freely in this cultural background? Cultural background is to be learnt from, and it's never the same every year. It's never the same every decade. We learn, we make mistakes, we grow. You know that sometimes in countries like Malaysia and Singapore and Hong Kong, not so much in Indonesia, is much damage has been done to the culture by the Brits, the British Raj, my ancestors. And so because of that, I feel an obligation to visit there to pay off my ancestors' bad karma. Is that true? No. It's just an excuse.
Well, there's a good reason to go.
That's why I don't go to Indonesia as much. That was the Dutch that caused all the problems. Is that right? Yes. Poor old Dutch. That's why we keep sending Venerable Sunyo. He's Dutch. Norwegians have done nothing. So that's why Ajahn can go if he wishes, but he doesn't have to. Now, a lot of these cultures, we learn, we make mistakes, and then we try the best. And then, as long as we're always trying to be better, we're trying to actually to be honest, and trying not to take advantage for ourselves, but to try and help for others. And that's the best. So that's what I hope to do. But many people have empire history, but some of our empire history we've forgotten. So what empires were there in Indonesia? A large number of empires. And there's a huge amount of culture in the past. But that's mostly been kind of forgotten or not sort of encouraged. That's one of the reasons I think that's not a bit, but a big shame. Like in Sumatra, was it called Sriwijaya? And there's a huge culture there. And that's why in Borobudur, look at that monument. It's massive. And not just there, but also just close by, Venerable Sri Panyawara, his monastery is next to the little chaitya called Mendut. Yeah. And he in particular made sure I saw that the first time I went to visit him. And he was pointing out one of the carvings on the stupa at Mendut. And there was a carving there of a tortoise biting into the middle of a stick carried by two swans. And that's one of my favorite stories, which I love telling young children. And it's the story of the talkative tortoise. It's in one of my books, but it's a beautiful story. Once upon a time, there was a tortoise who talked too much. That's why it's called a talkative tortoise. He would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and he would never listen to others because he was so busy talking himself. And he talked so much that even when the stars ran out of twilight, still he kept on talking. He talked so much that no one really liked him. They don't want to be caught talking to talkative tortoise all day and all night. They had other things to do in their life. But talkative tortoise would not shut up. He kept on talking, talking, talking all the time, and no one else could hear anything. And they got bored of him. So much so when even the rabbits saw talkative tortoise coming, they hid under the rocks. When the fish saw him, they also swam away as fast as they could. No one liked talkative tortoise. And so that's why talkative tortoise was so lonely. I tell parents, please tell that story to your children if they talk too much. If you're a teacher at school, talkative tortoise is a great story to tell them. And anyway, once a year, during the hot season, when it got really boiling hot, down the bottom of the mountains, that's when two swans would come up to the top of the mountains, like for a holiday, for vacation. It was cool, and they could actually live quite peacefully there. And those two swans were so kind. They would let talkative tortoise talk to them no matter how long for. And that's why talkative tortoise loved those two swans. And when it started to get cool, and the two swans said they've got to go back now, because the swans can't handle the cold weather. And that's when the talkative tortoise said, "Oh, it's so unfair. You've got wings, you can fly, you can get down to the plains very quickly. As for me, I'm a tortoise, I can only crawl very slowly. By the time I got there, it'll be time to come back again. Life is unfair." And that's when they got compassion on talkative tortoise. And they talked together, the two swans, and said, "Look, we can take you on one condition." And that's when talkative tortoise said, "I accept that condition, I accept it, I can do that. Now please let me come with you. I freeze to death up here, it's so lonely, it's so cold, sometimes I get so cold I can hear myself rattling in my shell. It's really freezing up here, I'll go with you, no matter what." And they said, "Talkative tortoise, if you can come with us if you promise to shut up." And talkative tortoise said, "Yeah, of course, that's easy to do. I hardly ever speak anyway, so that's one of the things which tortoises are well known for. We always keep quiet, we never say much anyway." And so they found a stick, the swans, and they told talkative tortoise to bite on into the middle of the stick. And with talkative tortoise biting in the middle, the two swans bit on each end of the stick, and they started flapping their wings, harder and harder and harder. You know what happened? Nothing. Because people who talk too much tend to get very fat, like talkative tortoise. So they had to get a lighter stick, which was still strong. And they told talkative tortoise to bite onto this new stick. They bite onto each end. They flapped their wings harder and harder and harder, really hard, and they took off into the air. And that was the first time in the history of the world that a tortoise ever flew. And the tortoise didn't find it difficult to keep quiet, because he was seeing things that no other tortoise has ever seen before. The place where he lived got smaller and smaller. It's like when you look out the window of the plane and you see everything get smaller and smaller. And he was taking notes in his mind because he wanted to tell everybody, all his friends, about his adventure flying for the first time. This time he'd have something to talk about instead of nonsense. So he thought many people might be interested to hear that. And as they two swans, they glided down the mountainside. Oh, it's so beautiful. And they glided down over the city next to the sea. And as they glided down, it was about 3:15 in the afternoon. In Australia, that's when the schools stop. They were flying over one of the schools, and the children were coming out of their classrooms, and one of the boys just happened to look up into the air. And what do you think he saw? Yeah, and he pointed out to his friends, "Hey, look at that stupid tortoise flying." And at that, the tortoise was really offended. So he opened his mouth and said, "Who are you calling stupid?" Oops. And the tortoise fell to the ground, splat, and he became hamburger patty. So that's what happens if you don't train yourself to keep quiet when the mummy and daddy or the teacher tells you to please be quiet. You end up like hamburger patty. That's the moral of telling you the talkative tortoise story. I don't know, we did have that rule, didn't we, Della, that during this retreat, Noble Silence, people weren't allowed to talk? Did you manage to keep that rule? So be careful, you may end up as hamburger patty. So anyway, that's the story of the talkative tortoise, which I thought was really cool. I like telling it. So anyway, it's nice to be able to... Some countries, look, honestly, I'm being frank now with you, that when I see you, just, are you Indonesian, Malaysian, Hong Kongi, or what are you? What am I? I get very confused these days. Because it's very hard to relate to belonging to one country. I remember years ago, I was very impressed with Ajahn when somebody asked him, where do you come from? Where were you born? You know what he asked for? What he answered? He said, I come from my mummy's tummy. From my mummy's tummy. Isn't that where you come from? So when you go to the airport and they ask you where you're from, you say, I come from my mummy's tummy. And that's truth. You can't deny that. You're being truthful. But it means that it just links you all together. You don't distinguish cultures and stuff. Because we do have a world culture now. And sometimes, with the internet and stuff. Is it true these days that people mostly watch the same movies, listen to the same music? Or is there some type of music over in Hong Kong which they don't listen to in Indonesia, or is it all the same? Both. There's some individual music and some. I do know that some of the Thais here, and I said there's a couple of Thais who live alone because their kids have grown up and have their own families, and their husband passed away. I said, what do you do? I watch the TV. So what? Because they're Thai movies. I said, no, Korean. So what about you in Hong Kong? You're more Korean than you are Hong Kongi?
Depending on the generation.
Generation, okay. Yeah. But I kind of like that sort of, we try and break down those barriers and have that harmony and peace for one another and between one another. That's a beautiful way of living. So one of those other stories one of those other stories which I love telling is the story of the old man. And he worked so hard looking after his children. And then he didn't have much for himself. But all his children, they did hard work at school, university, they started businesses, doctors, teachers. And they said that our father has never ever been to the city before. Can't we actually bring him to the city to show him around? And so they clubbed together and they just asked the father, can you please, come down to see the city, see where we work. And the first part of that story is a little bit naughty, I hope you don't mind, but I can't resist saying it. He brought his wife with him, their mother really getting old now. And one of the first things the father saw was one of these big shopping centres. And he saw, in a shopping centre, he saw this old woman get into one of these little boxes, like a small room. And the doors closed. And he saw the numbers above the door, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was an elevator. The first time he'd ever seen an elevator. And then he saw the numbers come down again, like 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when the doors opened, there was a new person inside the elevator, this beautiful young secretary. As soon as he saw that, he told his children, please bring your mum over here. I thought that was funny. I'm just an old guy, okay. But anyway, the real nice part of that story is that he was walking in part of town and he heard this really nasty, terrible sound. It was like some spirit who's just having a lot of suffering. It sounded really nasty. But nevertheless, he wanted to find out what was causing it. So he followed the noise to its source, And there in the little room, he saw this young boy trying to play a violin. I think that's where that's where the spirits can learn just how to screech and stuff. Anyway, the young boy was trying to play a violin, and he thought, what on earth is that? It's a violin, a violin! Who would ever want to go and to listen to that ever again? It sounds terrible. And the next, a couple of hours later, another house, he heard this beautiful sound. It was like the heavenly beings were all singing together or chanting together. It was gorgeous. And he followed that to its source. And what do you think that was? That was this old lady playing the same instrument, a violin. But she'd been practicing all her life. She was a maestro. And that sounded so wonderful. And then he realized his mistake. In the morning he blamed the violin. It wasn't the violin's fault. It was just the person had yet to learn how to play it properly. They needed more practice. And that's what he said about religions in the world. Or even, be careful, politics, philosophies. Is it the philosophy or the religion's fault? Or is it just the person doesn't know how to play it properly yet? Because the next day, actually that evening, he heard the most beautiful sound in the whole world. The sound which reminded him of the early morning birds just chanting in the mountains, after a nice cool evening. Or the sound of the creeks and the water flowing after a heavy rain. Or the sound of the wind in the evening, rustling the leaves on the trees and bushes. This was far more beautiful. And usually I would say, what was that sound? There's so many smart Alex in here this evening. I think you'd all guess, because it's in one of my books. What was that sound? What? Okay, you know, Freddie. What was it?
The orchestra.
Orchestra, yeah. The most beautiful sound. For two reasons. Number one, every member of that orchestra was a maestro of their own instrument. Even the man who played the little triangle, he'd actually trained for years to ding just at the right time. But then they weren't just maestros of their own instruments. Then they had learned to play together in harmony. That was one of the most amazing reasons why it was the best music in the whole world. So, what type of Buddhism is the best? Is it Zen, Mahayana, Theravada, Mahayana? But please realize the best is always when we can be in harmony with others. One of the things which, it's 9 o'clock, this is the last story. Maybe. One of the things which I was always surprised at, but very pleased with, because I'm a monk here in Perth, we've always been very happy to help out wherever we were invited. And I already mentioned one story of that Christian school where I explained to all the kids in the school, as well as the headmaster, about why we bow to Buddha statues. And he was impressed so much, he came to Bodhinyana, and next to me we bowed to the big Buddha statue over in the main hall. And didn't need to force him, he just wanted to. And then another time, then I was giving lots of talks all over the place, and one of he was the dean at the cathedral over in Perth. He said, why don't you come and give the sermon on a Sunday for us? like at the Eucharist, it's one of the main services. And I said, yeah, fine. Apparently, according to him, and he should know, it's the first time that a non-Christian has given the Eucharist at a Sunday service, a full Sunday service in a cathedral. I was very honoured by that. And I know beforehand, somebody who knew somebody in the media told the media what was happening. And so there was an interview, one of these live-to-air interviews on one of the channels, the Australian-wide channel. And that was where I had to go for that interview in the studio. And that was at that time. At that time they said, you have to wear makeup. Now that was really embarrassing. You know, I'm a man and a monk, and I had to wear makeup. It's not just some paste or something they put on your face so you don't glow, under the lights. But the worst part of that, you can ask him. Ajahn Brahmani was accompanying me to the studio. He wasn't allowed in, but he could see me through the window. And as I was being interviewed, he was going... making faces at me. Anyway, he was a young monk then. I promised one day I'd do the same back to him. But I wouldn't do that. But anyway, the reason for that was because it was historic. And I loved that interview, not the interview, but the actual event. Because when we went there, the cathedral was packed. You couldn't, people had to stand up, and they didn't worry about fire restrictions, packed in as many people as possible. And no one knew who was the Buddhist and who was the Christian. They were all packed in together. So I gave some of my usual talks. Is that wrong for a Buddhist monk to help other religions being spread? No, as long as it's spreading good parts, good things. Even once that book, Opening the Door of Your Heart, I got a telephone call from Adelaide, and this man said, I just got a copy of your book, I've read it, it's a wonderful book. Would it be okay if I use that in my sermons? Sermons, yeah. So I'm a pastor. They're one of the born-again Christians. I use my sermons. Sometimes I convert some of your followers. I said, no, use it, because that will convert some of your followers back. Fair, fair. So anyway, I gave him permission. I don't know what happened, but anyway, they're good stories. And so why not share them as far and wide as possible? I don't care what religion you are when you read it, just as long as you're a kind person. I really care what you are after you've read it. That's kind of my attitude. So anyway, that's all the questions in the box and all the answers. I never thought they'd be finished. Life is miraculous. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I did think of refusing the makeup in the TV studio, and I should have said this at the beginning, but I said, can you refuse it? They said, yeah, one person did, and that was... yes, you remember that, yeah. Okay, he was apparently one of the singers in his rock band called Oasis. And I could have been up there with the singer in Oasis, famous for the rest of the time. The only two people who refused makeup.
They are having world tour now, after 19 years.
After 19 years. I'm on road tour next week. I'll stop road tours for 3 months for the Rains Retreat. Then I go on road tour again. Excellent. Okay, so thank you all for listening. Now I'm still unsure. Actually, we'll just do sadhu, sadhu, sadhu first. Keep our traditions. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, sorry? 2.
We start at 2.
We start at 2. 2, okay, yeah.
Not 2:30, but 2.
2, okay, that's for this afternoon. An extra half an hour is squeezed out of me. I'm happy to give it. But right now, it says on the schedule here, I did look, and it said last day, 13th of July, for the morning session at 9 o'clock to 10 a.m, pack and tidy up rooms and cottage. We're supposed to do that?
Yeah, if you want to.
No, I'm not going to tidy up your cottage. No, so there is no, what's it called, the interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, yes there is none, or yes there is.
Yes, there is.
There-
There is interview.
Well, how can you pack up?
No, it's just 10 minutes and then one person at a time. You know, the rest.
You'd be trying to, oh, okay. Okay, no worries. Okay, so please keep it to 10 minutes for the interviews. The last few times were great because it was Kartika was there making signs, which was wonderful because then I said that you have to finish. Excellent. So I'll see you out in the interview rooms.